I want to thank my buddies for letting me ride his beautiful 899 Panigale. I've had this for a few days now. I've been riding it to and from work with a little bit of twists in the middle. And my first impression of this thing on the way it looks is that its predecessor, the 848, I like the way the 848 looks, but when this thing came out for the 1199 and the new body style, I just immediately was pulled towards it, I want to say. A lot of people, they didn't really like it because it was a drastic change from the 1098 and the 1198 bodies. But, you know, it works. There's a lot more angles to it. And the rear end, they changed the rear end out completely, but they still kept the whole one-piece side panels, which I really like. And overall, it looks pretty sharky. Pretty sharky. The way that they made this bike, and, you know, consequently the 1199 and then the 1299, is that they did away with the trellis frames completely. They did a MotoGP style of connecting the front and the rear all to the engine. So the engine now has become a stress member of the frame. So it's also become a frameless design. That's to allow you to have more feedback in the front and the rear. I've ridden this thing once before when it had stock Showa suspension, but now it has the Ohlins treatment, the full RT Forks in the front and the TTX2 rear shock in the back. It's dialed in for his weight, which doesn't really mean it's good for me because he's a much heavier guy. Not a lot. He's heavier than I am. So it's sprung for his weight. I wish the front was a little bit softer. It's a little bit too stiff for me. But overall, the Ohlins give the bike great feedback from the front. It's also rocking the stock Pirellis. So this is the Super Quadro engine. It comes stock with a quick shifter, which I think works a lot better than the one that comes in my R1. My R1, it's a little jittery. If you hit it down, you can feel the abrupt stop in the ignition timing. The bike just like jerks a little bit. This one is smoother. It's a lot more seamless, I want to say. So I really like that. It also has for electronics 3 maps. I'm riding in sport right now, but it has rain, sport, and wet modes. And the thing about this one is, like most of the bikes, you have to stop. Most of the bikes, you have to stop completely to change the mode. This one, if you just back off the gas and don't brake, you can change it as you're riding, which it's good on the fly, but for safety standards, when I was doing it, I had to read the screen, and I was like, close gas, don't brake. I was like, what is going on? So I had to actually like look down and read it, and it wasn't like really too safe for the first time I did it. But if you do it often, you change the maps often, it becomes second nature. Although having to stop and changing the maps yourself, I think that's a much better system than being able to do it on the fly. But that's just me, from a safety standard anyways. the one thing I noticed on this one compared to the 848, because honestly, those are the only two bikes that I can compare to, because I've ridden an 848 and I've ridden this one, is that the gas tank is much smaller lengthwise. On the old bikes, you had to sit really far back, and your arms were really stretched out, and it was almost as if it was in full lock. And it was so race-oriented that it was uncomfortable to ride the old 848 any distance further than 20 minutes. I just could not bear it. This, however, ride it all day long. It's because it's much more, the seating style is less aggressive, and you're more upright, and the weight isn't on your wrist anymore like the old bikes. The old bikes, your wrist took everything, and it just hurt. If you had arthritis, you're going to have it after you ride the old ones. And they weren't kind on your, if you're a guy, they weren't kind on your nuts, because that tank, the old tank was brutal. This one is a lot better. The design of this bike is a lot slimmer, which means, since it's slimmer, it's easier to flick back and forth. Much easier to flick. Oh, traffic. This is the 898cc engine, the Super Quattro wet clutch. They've done away with the dry clutch. A lot of people like the ching, 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 ching noises of the dry clutch, but honestly, I could do with or without it, and I'm glad that this one doesn't have it. It'd just be real annoying all the time. That's all you hear when you pull the clutch in. But back to how slim it is. It's so easy to flick around. It's really small. Most other bikes, you feel that you're in it. This one, you feel like you're on top of it, and it has its pros and cons being on top of the bike. You won't be able to feel as much as if you're in it, but since you're on top of it, you can just throw this thing around. I mean, it still weighs over 400 pounds wet, so it's not like the easiest thing to pick up, and once you lock it into a corner, the way the chassis is set up, the way his suspension is set up from GMD, it's very planted. You feel very, very confident mid-corner all the way to the apex. It makes the turn in a little bit. For me, turning in is a little bit tougher to try to point it to where you want to go, but once you point it, you're able to put it in that direction. It will just take it, and it'll be real good. Dang, I thought it was a cop. Once you point it into a corner, it will just go. It's that easy to just point and shoot and come out the other side. It'd be cool. No. It does have 3 electronic rider aids. You can see on the dash, it's EBC, DTC, and ABS. So it's the electronic, it's the engine braking system, the Ducati traction control, and the ABS. The engine braking is very, it's set to 1, but it's very, I want to say, abrupt. Like when you downshift and you just dump it, which I don't think this thing has a super clutch anyway, so when you dump it, the engine braking, you can really feel it just try to stop. On my R1, it's a lot more smoother. It's very less pushback. This one, it pushes back a lot. And you can hear it. You can hear the engine braking, because this engine is really loud. Since it's a L twin, it makes a lot of torque grunts because it's a twin. But all this power ends up being in the top end of the range, which means you have to constantly shift. And if you're on track, let's say Loudon, it's a lot of stop and go, and if you have to constantly keep shifting, it becomes a pain in the ass. So, I mean, that's like one downside to this bike. There's a few things I like about it. I mean, like I said, his has the full Ohlins RT Forks, PTX2 wrist shop, Ohlins steering damper. It has DP Resovoirs, DP bar ends. It also has the Woodcraft GP shift disc, RG sliders. You know, it's suspension-wise, it's a very sorted bike. For the brakes, they're Brembo parts, but the brake lever, you have to pull it in sort of almost all the way so you feel like it won't go anywhere before you feel any pressure of the brakes actually biting. So there's like nothing in this right here, this range, there's nothing, and then there's something. Maybe it's for a progressive feel, but for me, I don't like that much travel, but there is that much travel there. And the other thing I don't like about this is that the clutch, the brakes, and the gas, it's either heavy or twitchy. The clutch lever, when I first rode it the first day, I had to pull it in, and it took so much energy to pull in the lever because the lever was so hard. The gas is so twitchy. It's like in anything besides wet mode, it's twitchy, like just twitchy everywhere. In race mode, this thing is a bitch. You yank it a little bit, and it's just like boom, boom, and it's like, damn, man, come on. You couldn't smooth out the map, especially for a race mode. So if they do offer a flash for this, I think you should get it. If there's a flash tune it, smooth out the power band. So far, anywhere I've ridden, people ask me, "Oh, what bike is that? What bike is that?" Because he took all the decals off it, so it only says Ducati in the front. Unless you're looking at the front, you won't know what it is. And unless you know bikes, you won't know what it is. Someone thought it was a Aprilia, another person thought it was a Jap bike, and I'm like, no, it's a Ducati. With a little smirk, as Ducatistas would tell you. But for all the things I like about it, the one thing I really hate about this, well, the two things, is the controls are so heavy and the exhaust. Because the exhaust is in the middle of the bike, they put it at the very bottom, it's so hot. My friend, when he gave me the bike, he jokingly said, "Oh, I hope your nuts have a heat shield because they're gonna burn." You know, you hear these horror stories about how hot these things get, and you just, for me at least, I scoff it off. I'm like, whatever. You know, you don't ride a bike for it not to be hot. But this thing, holy crap! I sit at a red light, and it easily shoots up to 240. And because the way the exhaust wraps around, there's an exhaust piping next to my thigh. And once I burnt my thigh on it, and I'm like, dude, no, it's too hot. And it takes it a while to cool down. Even at highway speeds, it will still probably be like 180, 190 during the day. Right now, it's 178, and I'm riding the back roads at 10:45 in the morning. It's like, come on. I think even if you swap out the exhaust, there will be less heat, but there won't be that. It won't be by that much. So if you're riding this thing in the city, it's awful. Would I recommend it to be ridden in? Like, if you were gonna buy a Ducati Panigale 899, 11, or 12, would I suggest buying it? If you're buying this and you don't track and you're just gonna ride around the back roads or like to a coffee shop or hang out with your friends, then you know it might be a tough sell because around town is an uncomfortable bike to be riding that long, mainly because of the heat. And it's not that much fun at low speeds. This thing isn't fun at all. Like, it's sluggish to turn unless it's at speed. Unless you're taking a corner at speed, this thing is, for as small and as light as it is, you still have to muscle it around somewhat, which is unfortunate, but the downside of owning a big-ish bike in the city. Now, are you gonna buy this for the track? Hell yeah, I would definitely. If I had the money and the option for track only, I'd buy a track only Panigale in a heartbeat. This thing was made for the track. It's unbelievable to ride back roads. It's great agility, great steering, great flexibility. It has everything and a twin. You have that brutal grunt that Ducati's known for. So, hey, if you have the money, you want a track bike, this is for you. But if you want a bike that you can just cruise around in, you don't mind the heat, this could be also for you, but that's just my opinion. I would buy this for a track bike in a heartbeat.